Hello, 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 my beautiful people. Hello, hello, hello. So, this is it kind of is and isn't impromptu. So, if there are any of you out there, if you could give me a little heads up and say hello and let me know where you are, that would be great so that so that I know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Is it loud enough? Do I need to turn it up just a little, or is it too loud? We know Rafi's volume is quite loud, so just let me know. If you can hear me, just let me know in the chat. That would be fantastic. Hello from Scotland, Suffolk, I can hear you. Good morning, Raf. Atlanta, GA, USA. Laurelberg is my Aquarian soul sister. Eleni is another of my favorite Aquarians. Lovely to have you guys here. Thank you so much for dropping in. So I have a few things to talk about. Obviously, you've seen the title, so Mercury Retro-Grace, right? This is going to be the first one of the year, so I'm going to get into this, and then I've got a few things that I would like to share with you. So I hope you are buckled in and you've got a little brew. I've got my very classy Sports Direct mug here with me. If you're from any part of the UK, you know this is really not a fancy mug. This is about as common as it gets, but I love it because it's a giant mug. So all good stuff. I've got Taurus from Baltimore, so this is definitely going to be relevant for you. So pay attention to what I'm talking about today. Joanne Lockie knows what's up. All right, so thank you all so much for being here. I just want to say to all of you that are here now, you have my absolute heart. For those of you that are watching this after the fact, I love you. Thank you so much for all of your support. Also, please don't forget to like, share, and if you should so choose, and this resonates, hit the subscribe button. And if you are already a continued subby, I would appreciate it immensely if you could share this with somebody that you feel may benefit from it. All right, so with that said, we're going to get into why we are actually here, and that is the Mercury retrograde. So the Mercury retrograde this year, I'm not looking at the shadow periods. It's not because I don't believe in them. It's just I like to really look at when this is going to be acute and where it's going to really hit us, right? And so the retrograde dates are from the 21st of April right through to the 18th of May. Sorry, I apologize. Look, see, I'm tapping into that retrograde energy. The 21st of April right through to the 15th of May is when the Mercury retrograde in the sign of Taurus is going to be taking place. Now, there's a few things with this. So just like a lunar transit, I always say to people, pay attention to the day before something starts, the day of it actually happening, and the day after. That period tends to really give you an insight as to what's going on and what you should expect throughout the duration and from there onwards. Now, there's some really interesting stuff here. So the day before it starts is the 20th. The day of is the 21st, and the day after is the 22nd, right? So 20, 21, 22. And the day before it ends, the 14th, and then the day after the end of the retrograde, and then the day after the retrograde ends is the 16th. So the 14th, 15th, and 16th. Now, interesting stuff. My little numerology / tarot / astrology geek brain kicked into overdrive when I noticed this. So the 20th equates to 2. The 21st equates to 3. The 22nd equates to 4. All right, so we've got literally the 2, 3, and 4, and then the dates that it ends, or the transit window for the date that the Mercury retrograde comes to a close. The 14th equals 5, the 15th equals 6, and the 16th equals 7. Right, so you see that 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7. It's kind of like a bam, bam, bam. So this kind of suggests to me that even though it is a retrograde, a Mercury retrograde in Taurus, there is going to be an energy of a quickening around this. And what we mean by this is the energy is definitely going to be palpable. Now, this retrograde of Mercury in the sign of Taurus begins at literally at 15 degrees. Now, that's prominent in the world of tarot because the number 15 equates to the devil, right? So interestingly enough, this is happening at that 15th degree. This is where it starts, right? This retrograde. And the devil energy is about things, situations, places, sometimes even people that we are stuck with, addicted to, patterns, negative cycles of things, ways of being, understandings, etc., that we are tied to. And one of the messages behind this card, so if you can see there, the chains on the people are quite loose, which means at any point they have the power to free themselves from the shackles or the chains. Now, the interesting thing about this card for me is, and I always say this, like even when it comes to things like addiction, the first time that you got into whatever it is that's addictive to you was a choice, right? And the opposite card to the devil card is the Lover's card, right? Which literally represents choice and or decision or potentially options. So the fact that this Mercury retrograde is happening, or should I say starting at that 15th degree of Taurus, is actually very telling, because it means, especially with the devil card highlighting this to us, and it's in Taurus, which is the fixed earth sign. As far as I'm concerned, Taurus is the epitome of earth. Its mode, its quality is fixed. So it's strong, it's stuck where it is. Earth is very slow moving. So this is a very fixed energy. And because it's a retrograde, we're going backward, we're looking back, we're revising, rewinding, remediating, redoing, renegotiating, researching even, remembering even. And Mercury is the planet of the mind, right? So there's that energy as well. And I'm going to get into this because it means that in some way, shape or form, we're going to be dismantling something that has been fixed in our lives. And, potentially maybe even we're addicted to doing it a specific way. Now, as if that wasn't enough, this energy also equates to, because of the decan that this is taking place in, it's also the Six of Pentacles. So we've got the devil card, which is number 15, 1 and 5 gives you 6. So we've got technically 2 6s here. 2 6s represents balance or irritability, right? And so with this energy, what you tend to get is, let's look at it this way. The nature of this retrograde is we will be able to find balance within it once we get over the irritability of what we know needs to change, but we might have been too rigid or held on too strongly in order to allow it the air, the space that it needed in order to really breathe, right? So the balance is that we're being given a choice. The challenge is that what we choose is either going to be the easy and the familiar, or it's going to be the hard and the uncertain. And if you choose the hard and the uncertain, yes, you're going to have a little bit of challenge. But what this means is you're actually stepping out of your comfort zone and bringing new, fresh energy in. All right. So this couplet, literally as a pairing, may speak to the need to be very wary of accepting help. Not because somebody, is out to get you or anything like that, or it's anything scary, but it might be because they're unaware of their own motivations. That's kind of like the lighter slice of this. The other side of this could literally be things like emotional or financial blackmail. It's very possible with this pairing of cards. Now, I know someone out there is going to be like, that's so dark. Why do you do? We got to call it what it is, right? Now, it may also show up in a way that suggests whatever you're getting potentially comes with strings. It could also be that you're given what you're given, and what you're expected to give in return for that is maybe not necessarily equal. All right. It could potentially be as well. I mean, with this pairing of cards, maybe it's somebody holding something over your head and saying, well, look what I've done for you. And so for that reason, they kind of feel like they have, a way to say like, well, now that I've done this for you, you have to do The transit will finish once the retrograde ends. It will be at 5 degrees of Taurus, which resonates to the energy of the 5 of Pentacles. Now, this might seem scary and you might think like, oh, okay. But I actually feel like this could be a moment where we all kind of collectively tell someone, some place, some energy, some old situation in our lives to shove it, right? Just to say, look, you know what? I'm not interested in that anymore. And it kind of might be that you say, you know what? I don't need what you're offering because there are too many strings attached. So I'm going to cut that. And I'm going to refuse what's offered, because even though it looks like I'm making a mistake to the outside world, I do so with the knowledge that I will find sanctuary and sustenance elsewhere. I don't need it to come from outside or anyone else. Now, the interesting thing about this is that's the message behind the 5 of Pentacles. You see the sanctuary in the background? It's like if you just check, if you just look a little closer to home, you will find what you need, right? You don't need, it doesn't necessarily need to come from somebody that's holding something over your head. Now, considerations for this Mercury retrograde before I get into what it might mean for all 12 signs, and a couple of offerings, all right? So the first one, many of you have asked about my chakra meditations. There is a link posted in there right now. So if you want to purchase those and you want to work through them successively, you can download them, you can put them on your iPod or your, who even has an iPod anymore, Raf? Right, I'm showing my age now. But you can download them, you can put them on your desktop, you can put them anywhere. And there's also a really nice, colorful PDF in there that will introduce you to your chakra system and how it kind of works. It's a very short but sweet kind of introduction. So if you want to get those, they are $29.99 for all 7 plus the PDF. You can get that, and that's going to be relevant because I'm going to give you some stuff as part of this retrograde energy that you might want to be aware of. All right. So the link is in the chat. Check it out. And I will also put them in the video description later after this. All right. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about here is the considerations for this retrograde. So a retrograde is a time for you to kind of take your mind more inward, right? This is the symbolism is that your mind isn't so forward projecting. It's not so much out there. It's coming back into things. It's a time where we go over things to consider what has worked, what's maybe not working in our lives. And this way you can kind of decide what you want to continue with and what you want to let go of, where things might need to be trimmed down. It's kind of like, and I really like that quote, when they asked, what's his name? Leonardo da Vinci, they asked, how did you carve this out of a block of stone? And he says, I took away everything that wasn't David. I took away everything that, around him so that I freed him from the stone, which is such a beautiful energy. And when you think about it, it's actually very Mercury in Taurus as a retrograde, right? Taurus is fixed energy. It's hard. It's unyielding. It's unmoving. It's sensual and pleasurable. Absolutely. But we're rethinking, right? So Taurus is the sign that is slow. It's steady. It doesn't just win the race. It's going to take, slow and steady is going to win the race. It doesn't just win the race, but it's also going to take a few considerations, a few iterations to really refine, to hone, and to clear on something. All right. So Taurus is practical, it's earthy, it's sensual. We're being asked to really look at an area of our lives or our chart that is ruled by Taurus, and we're being asked to really get into what it means to, on a practical level, on a grounded level, right? So this is also the sign that speaks to the true worth of something, the true value of something. So you could be rethinking what that value is, really asking yourself, does this actually resonate with me now? Does this really speak to me? What is it about this that I want to change or maybe needs to be adapted? So whatever you're looking over and revising, what is it worth to you? What is the true value of that? This is what we're being really asked. Mercury, the mind, you're being asked to go inward of mind, to backtrack on something, to really refine it, to hone it, and to ask yourself, what is the true value here? Now, Taurus is a fixed sign. So it means that whatever happens in Taurus, it takes a while to shift. So for those of you that are Taurians, that Uranus transit has been literally, right? For those Taurians out there, I'm pretty sure you can agree with me that Taurus transit has really been working for you guys. It's been forcing you to get comfortable with change, which is not necessarily the easiest of energies. Then we had the Saturn-Uranus square for the last, glad that's over. I'm fairly sure you guys will be as well. As will all of the fixed signs, to be fair. So remember, it's not only going to take time to shift, but these are things that are traditions, established constructs within your life now that are needing change, that are needing to adapt. And it's like you have to find a way to do this. You have to find a new way to go ahead with something. So one that's new, one that's novel, one that's potentially visionary. Where does that idea come from? The conjunct, so that Mercury retrograde is going to be basically conjunct Uranus. It's like within 2 degrees as the Mercury retrograde begins. Mercury's at 15, Uranus is at 17. So there's going to be a new idea, a new novel idea that you come up with. You're coming up with a new solution to an old problem, right? Or potentially you're looking at something that as a tradition or an established construct in your life and saying, I need a new way to do this. I need a new way to adapt or to change this. So something here, whether we like it or not, certainly on a mental level before anything else, is being busted wide open, right? Whether we like it or not. So we're going to see something potentially in a very different light. Now, because this is happening in Taurus, it's not just going to happen all at once. We set something into motion. We start to unpick. We start to dismantle, right? Mercury, in the short time that Mercury is going to be retrograde, or the cosmic dancer, as I call him, right? Why do I call Mercury the cosmic dancer? Because that bitch is always going retrograde, right? Going backward, going forward. Like in the end, you're like, okay, Mercury's doing his dance, so, or their dance, should I say? So get clear here on where you've been too rigid, where you've maybe been too comfortable, and what needs to change. And then slowly, patiently, diligently start dismantling that structure, right? So it's like when you're getting rid of a house in order to rebuild or to build a new one, you don't just go in and start smashing the bottom walls. You start to dismantle it piece by piece, right? You start to really think, okay, what's the safest, easiest way to take apart this structure? Yes, it takes time, but you know what? We're going to do it safely so that once we've cleared the decks, we can build something new that is going to stand the test of time. Mind your business, Siri. Out here, nosy as you like. until as well, and you're going to want to dismantle this until it looks exactly as you want it to, all right? Or if it's close enough to being molded and shaped into, certainly in the given time, space and effort to become a valuable thing, or the value, or where the value of what you're creating or recreating has gone to the place that you believe it to be, so that other people as well as yourself can see the true value or worth of something. All right, so that's considerations about this retrograde. And now, for those of you that are so inclined, I got a little something that I've been working on for you. I'm dropping the link in the description box below. So the Mercury Retro-Grace session is something that I've designed and created for those of you that love to do energy work, for those of you that are into this idea. Basically, what we're going to do, we're going to get together over Zoom. We're going to talk about how this Mercury retrograde is likely to be unfolding and expanding. And then I'm going to talk to you about how this is affecting your sign. And then more importantly, above and beyond all of that, we're going to be doing energy work to clear limiting beliefs, maybe any blocks that you might have. Remember, Mercury rules the finances. It rules the transactional nature of money and the flow of money, commerce and business. So maybe you have things in that. Now, I'm going to talk about how this will affect each one of your signs in this video. But if you are interested, the Mercury Retro-Grace session, as I am calling it, will help you find some grace throughout that transit. It's going to be on the 9th of April. at 2 p.m. UK time. And trust me, if you are into energy work, if you like astrology, if you like tarot, if you like anything that I do, and you want to get a little bit of all of those for a bargain price of £111, then that link in the description is for you, and you'll be seeing this pop up over socials as well. Spaces are very limited. I'm limiting this to 20 people. Because I need to be able to manage the session, and I really want to make sure that I give my absolute best, and that we get to some, to clear some really juicy blocks. All right, so without further ado, how is this affecting the signs? Okay, so Aries, for you guys, this is happening in your second house, right, of finances, money, resources. So your money house is getting lit up like a Christmas tree at the moment, because there's going to be such a buildup of energies in the sign of Taurus, right? So for you, this means that your finances, your values, your self-worth are all getting a really good airing, right? Like we're going to be really getting into that for you guys. Now, the suggestion here that there's an illumination to what you're earning, whether you feel like the exchange is worth it, whether you kind of feel like, okay, you know what, maybe I'm working a lot harder than the pay is actually giving me. It could also be that you start to think about something, you might start thinking about your spending habits, like how you're using your money, what you're doing with your resources could come into question at this time. It might also be that you start to think about new ways or to extract goodness from your money. So the structure of your financial world, outlook, and energy is definitely going to change, and maybe it's in line with what you decide is right for yourself. So you might want to change your mind on what you think is valuable. You might even start changing the way that you shop. You might look at things and say, actually, you know what, I pay too much for this, so I'm not going to really do that anymore. I'm going to find a cheaper alternative that actually has a better, a better output. I'll give you an example of this. So one year, I remember speaking to a lady who was a sommelier. And she said, I have so many super wealthy people that come and they're like, I just want the most expensive thing. And she would try to explain to them and say, just because it costs more doesn't actually mean that it's got the best flavor, right? I'm telling you, like, I've got much cheaper products than what you're trying to buy that will actually, you will enjoy much more. And they're like, no, I just want the most expensive thing. So, try to think of it in that way. Expect conversations, and potentially likely big conversations, around your finances and your resources. So for you guys, Aries, the work that you should be doing around this time, excuse the word, I hate that word should, but work that you can be doing around this time is on your throat chakra. All right. So again, there's a link in the chat that's going to direct you to my chakra meditations. So you can purchase those so that you can start working on this. Maybe as well, you want to come to the Mercury Retrograde session. The link is in the chat, and as I said, it will be in the description. Taurus, for you guys, this is happening in your first house. This is where you are rethinking your entire outlook. Your mind is changing on something, how you see yourself, how you value yourself, and also what that translates into as patterns and cycles. Maybe even your self-talk, maybe even your, your actual talk, like when you're talking to people that you care about, or even friends, or just the world in general. How are you actually talking about yourself? What are you saying about yourself? This might really see you looking to change or shift your identity in some way, shape, or form. It could also see you having some really deep conversations about how you see yourself, about your self-image, your identity. All of this stuff is found in the first house. So you might be ready for a makeover. Maybe you just start saying to yourself, you know what? No, I want to work on myself more. I want to get more self-focused, more self-directed, more self-centered. And sometimes it's a really good thing to be self-centered, right? When we think about the words self, me, centered within yourself. Sometimes we really need that. And that means shutting everything and everyone else and other people's opinions out. Nothing wrong with that at all, right? You might be dismantling the version of you that you feel has been taken advantage of for too long. You might also be deciding that a new sense of self lines up with the true worth that you place on yourself and your soul, right? So this could have a lot to do with pleasure, with romance, how you allow yourself to have, or should I say, what you allow yourself to have in line with the worth that you attribute to yourself. Let me say that again, right? This could be about what you allow yourself in line with the worth that you attribute to yourself. So this could be a really powerful moment for you. Again, chakra meditations, it's all in the description or in the chat. For you guys, the work that I really feel you could be doing at this time is crown chakra work, right? So really work on that crown, really start to understand your connection to cosmos, but also your own identity, all right? I'm going to pop those links in the chat once more. So this one for the chakra meditations and this one for the Mercury Retrograde session. So again, Mercury Retrograde session, there's only 20 spaces. So just so you know, and you don't get disappointed, all right? I want to keep it short, small groups, so that you can really get the best out of it. So for Gemini, this is happening for you guys in your 12th house, right? The deepest part of the chart. This could be a moment where your past and any self-sabotaging tendencies that you might have, but you're laying them to rest, right? You're putting them to bed. It's like you get to the depths of something once and for all. And you just kind of say to yourself, you know what? I'm ready to release this now. I'm ready to let this go. I really like this for you, reframing the past, but putting it in its proper place. So where maybe you have a trauma or a hurt or an issue or a challenge that you've had in some regard, where it's kind of like you take this, you know, part of that dark, spiky ball at the base of your consciousness, you give it some air, you give it a really good look at throughout the retrograde and say, actually, you know what? You don't deserve to take up so much of my time, and you don't deserve to unconsciously steer my ego and sabotage me from you know, whatever I'm trying to build. I'm going to put that in its proper place right now. So I love this for that. You might also begin redesigning something with your home and your living situation, because Mercury also rules your home sector. So I like this as well for potentially redefining your home and family sphere. You could be dismantling a family tradition that just no longer rings true or actually holds you back in some way. So it's like maybe you say to yourself, well, you know, we've always done this in my family. And it's like you don't really like doing it. And actually it just makes you feel crap. You know, this could be, well, you know, my family have never earned a lot of money, and, you know, I probably won't as well. This could be some family history, energy, and or karma that you kind of just take and say, no, you know what? You in your proper place. That was my past, but it's not my present, and it's definitely not going to be my future. Conversations with family members about the past could really clear the air for you at this moment in time. And it might take a few goes, right? So if you open up this conversation, it's going to be a bit of a can of worms. It's not just going to be, yeah, you know, we started talking about it and we cleared it all at once. This is a retrograde in Taurus. It's going to take time. It's going to probably take a few goes over, right? One of the things about Mercury in Taurus as well is it talks over something. It will repeat itself until the message really gets home. Mercury is your ruling planet, so you might be able to navigate this a little bit better than most will do, but it will still potentially come with its challenges. All right, so if you are a Gemini rising, the work that you may want to do around this time is root chakra work. Again, the links are in the description if you want to be on the energy work session, or if you would like to get the chakra meditations, these may help you. For Cancer, my lunar brothers and sisters, you guys know I love you. Okay, so for you guys, this is happening in your 11th house. This could see you revising sort of longer term plans or goals that you have for your future, maybe your highest sort of furthest, you know, reaching dreams. You might look at this and kind of say, yeah, you know what? this needs to be changed. It might allow you to open things up and give a good consideration to the best course of action. So this could be you taking your time and you're talking things out, or maybe you're sounding them out in your mind, but you're doing this patiently, slowly, diligently. I really like this for talking things out with friends, trusted community members, if you have them, to really chuck an idea around, to ask yourself, what am I not seeing here? Where is the disconnect between where I am right now and the biggest goal that I have for my future? I really love this for rethinking, reorganizing or restructuring your social connections, rethinking your community ties, and whether the support groups that you have are actually supportive or potentially exploitative. You know, this is where you kind of really start to define which is which. It could also see you getting really honest about what about who and what your associations are bringing closer to you. So you could be looking at friendship ties, communities, maybe even just the stuff that you scroll on social media and saying, you know what, this doesn't actually help me get to where I want to be. Is it holding me back or not, right? Being really honest with yourself. And like I said, potentially talking it out with a really good confidant. Now, this might create some tension in the home sphere, and it could also see some of you reconnecting with people from your past, particularly friends that you've lost touch with. Okay, for you guys, Cancer, I am advising that the work that you could be doing around this time would be on the third eye chakra. All right, like to really help you start to envision what the future looks like and that further goal. For Leo, my lions, my ascendant brothers and sisters, for you guys, this is happening in your 10th house. Your career and your legacy is getting a good airing, right? And I mean, you guys have seen me, I'm going through crazy changes with career right now, because Radiant Reality is me doing my 10th house, all right? Like it's that most visible part of me. This Mercury retrograde, you will be glad to know, it's something that you'll be able to take your time with, all right? So you might be dismantling some old ideas about what you're here to do, maybe even how you present yourself to the world. It might be a status change. So obviously, you know, Mercury retrograde, this could be rethinking something. So maybe you got into a relationship and then you think, actually, no, this person isn't for me. Maybe you start to rethink, you know, what does being married actually mean? What does being employed mean? What does being, you know, a wife, a husband, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, all of that stuff. Now, Mercury rules your finances, both in terms of your personal monies, because Mercury rules Virgo, which is your second house. It also rules Gemini, which is your 11th house, which is the house of gains that you get from your business. So you might go to ground at this time. Like maybe many of you Leos will disappear, do some really deep thinking about what you want, who you are, where all of this is going, and where it is, or that you feel like you're going to have the most impact. Your own self-worth and value might come into question, because maybe you realize like more of what you have to give that you're not actually using. Maybe there's parts of you or gifts or skills or talents that are kind of wasted at this time, and you look at them and you think, no, you know what, I need to bring more of this in, right? So as the ruler of the lot of fortune in this chart, it's very complex. I'm not going to get too heavily into this, but there is a somewhat service-driven realization that comes through. So this is basically going to help the Leos understand what you're meant to be offering and what the true worth or value of those things actually is. All right, so this could be really, really lovely for you, providing you approach it slowly, steadily, not too many, you know, harsh, sharp turns. Trust me, I've learned a lesson about those. So work that you could do, my dear Leos, is twofold for you guys. You could do some solar plexus work, or you could do some crown chakra work. And I would advise actually that you probably do both. For the Virgos amongst you, Mercury, your ruling planet, retrograde in a fellow Earth sign. So this is offering a trine energy to your sign, whether this is your sun, your moon, or your ascendant that you're watching for. But this is happening in your 9th house. your belief structures, what is required from you in order to have faith is what's being looked at here. So this could be rethinking, renegotiating a contract, because the ninth house is also contracts of a legal nature, right? It doesn't have to be that you're being sued. It could literally be that you're getting a visa together to move to a different country. It could be that you're changing travel plans at this time. For a lot of you as well, I feel like this might show up as like a change of itinerary. So like maybe you had all of these plans for when you go to a specific place, but it's like, oh, you know what, now this has come up. We actually need to do it this way and this way and this way and see this, this and this. It could be going over paperwork, documents of a legal nature, might also be some kind of remedial action that needs to be taken on such things. So maybe you get a letter or an email or a phone call to say, look, we're trying to process your application, but you've misspelled your name, or the date of birth doesn't match what we've been given on our system. Or do you know what I mean? Like something could come up like that and you're like, okay, I have to redo this or do it again. Not a biggie, all right? Might see some of you picking up a religious idea or spiritual practice, but this is like a return to spirituality that's like a 2.0 version. So maybe you go back to some sort of spiritual practice or energy that you've done before, but this time it's a lot deeper and it's a lot more accurate to what you need right now. For some of you, this is maybe you're reconsidering going back to school, revising or editing books, blogs, plays if you have them, movies if you're writing those kinds of things. Maybe you're thinking about a new way to broadcast or some medium, and you're tearing down what you thought it was supposed to be and you're starting over. Or maybe you're just revising it. Expect a few drafts before anything is perfected, but you will find that. All right, so work to do for you guys, I'm advising here as well, is also going to be third eye work. For the Librans, how you view the occult. Is it something that you've always been afraid of or were afraid to get into because of, you know, religious upbringing and all of that kind of stuff? I like this transit for a lot of you, releasing or remediating a phobia. So something that you've really been afraid of, or you've kind of been like, oh no, you know, I can't go near that, or I don't want to touch that. You could come to a realization here about where that fear comes from, and you could find a way through it. And it's going to come through practical, slow conversation that allows you to really get into a deep understanding, and also maybe just a little bit of, you know, like immersion therapy, but not like where you're all in all at once. It's like, you know what, I'm afraid of spiders, so much so that I really get hysterical, but maybe I can see one on a screen far away. And every day I just get a little bit closer to the screen. Do you see what I mean? It's like slow and steady through conversation. For some of you, you might get you might even get serious about your sex life. And this could be because you start seeing how sex can be a transcendent experience or even a spiritual one. For some of you, this might be a revision of a will, very possible, and important revisions of paperwork and documents that pertain to inheritance. So if you've had any challenges or issues with something like that, this could be where you really start to get, do you know what I mean? Like a bit deeper into it. You might need to readjust your taxes and all of that kind of stuff, because the 8th house is also taxes. You might be ready to dismantle or undo something that's been done in all of these areas. And maybe you're like consciously and willingly, you're making it easy and you're bringing great transformation to your life by going into things like this. If you go kicking and screaming, or choose to be ignorant, the chances are mentally you might suffer unnecessarily. All right, so this has to be a conscious choice to open these things up. For the work that you guys can do, I am advising sacral chakra work. That is probably where you're going to get the most impact throughout this Mercury retrograde. Again, the links are in the chat and they will be in the description of the video, so you can get all 7 of my chakra meditations, or you can join me on the energy work session on the 9th of April. So for Scorpio, this is happening in your 7th house of contracts. And, you know, it's contracts, but it's also business contracts and on a work level. If you've got a business, especially any employees, you might need to renegotiate the contracts that you have with them, especially if you've got one in place that seems kind of outdated, or maybe it's a bit sort of redundant. It might be that you get some pushback from this as well, especially if, you know, the contract is not changing in a way that somebody likes. Excuse me. It could also be that, excuse me, that you're asking a partner a lot of questions right now about what their desires for the future are. And even, you know, future plans and goals that you've got together. Maybe you start to look at these and say, actually, where are we going with this? And does it look like what we really want now? You know, this could be around finances, around money, but it could also be what you perceive to be your greatest assets. Financially speaking, of course. You know, we've got many assets. Anyway, I'm going to behave myself now. For some of you as well, this could be a plan or a longer term goal that you and a partner or a collaborator, because it's the 7th house, partnerships, business collaborators, competitors even. I really like this as well, potentially for a select few of you, maybe saying to a collaborator and saying, actually, you know what, I think we could double up here and maybe go about this in a different way. I actually really like that. I also like this as well because it's like something that gets pulled apart or dismantled so you can build something new. And once the restructures have happened, it's actually that you get like better reach, better longevity, and a higher yield from what you're doing. This is really about open, honest communication where you listen more than you speak. All right. For you guys, I am advising that you could do, there's 2 works that you could do. And I would say one of these might be solar plexus stuff. And the other, actually, interestingly enough, will be throat chakra stuff. All right. So potentially both of those. Not throat chakra, heart chakra, because this is your 7th house after all. So you want to really be working on that heart space level for good, honest, open communication on a heart based level. For those of you that are partnered, married, especially if you're single, maybe some heart work to open up to what your dating life could look like for the future. Sagittarius, this for you is happening in your 6th house. So how you've done your work up until now has brought you this far, but it's probably not going to take you any further. It's asking for a more refined approach, right? Like this Mercury retrograde is asking you to really consider how you can refine, enhance, and make more beautiful and therefore more valuable what you're doing, right? I really like this for a rebrand. I love this as well for, what I've put here for you guys is it's like a clearer sense of what you need to change. And because the 6th house is like a maintenance house, as I've said many, many times, it's like your health, your vitality, how you look after yourself might really be getting a good clear up. So this is maybe you're dismantling your current way of living, eating, working out, rebuilding an entire life routine so that you can take care of yourself more on that day-to-day level. And also so that you can create new structures, new routines that actually feel more supportive for what you're trying to achieve. The other thing as well, Venus is the ruler of this Mercury retrograde because Venus rules Taurus and Mercury is in her house, basically, right? Thank you so much for that. That's wonderful. Thank you. And at least just until after the eclipse, she's in the sign of Gemini. So there's kind of like a mutual reception thing going on there. So cleaning up your words, cleaning up your visuals. Why do I say cleaning up? Because Venus loves cleanliness, right? Venus is a lady, darling. So cleaning up your diet, cleaning up your day-to-day, like just tidying everything up, making it more refined. What we consume is not just about what we eat either, right? It's about what we watch, what we listen to, what we surround ourselves with. For you guys, I definitely think that this is going to be solar plexus work that you could be doing that could really support you in some way, shape, or form. Capricorn, you know I love some Cappy. So for you guys, this is happening in your 5th house. Now, again, because Mercury is retrograde in the sign of Taurus, it is a trine energy to your sun, moon, or ascendant, whichever one you're watching for. And it's offering a beneficial or a harmonious energy to you. Now, as the ruler of your 6th and your 9th houses, Mercury in your 5th house could just be the spoonful of sugar that you need to start changing how you see pleasure, your relationship to pleasure. This might really see you actually dismantling the old ideas of what romance means, of what pleasure actually is to you. I love this for like really looking at things that thrill and excite you. And it might be that you're resuming a hobby that you had a lot of fun with previously, but it kind of takes a minute to get back into. Because remember, like I said, this is a Mercury retrograde in the sign of Taurus. So whatever we're getting back into our lives, going back over, revising, etc., it's not just going to be drop of a hat stuff. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort and energy. You're used to that energy anyway, but it's not going to be that you know, I mean, gosh, if I went back to, listen, I'm not a Capricorn, but I'm going to give you this example. So last year, as many of you know, if you've been with me long enough, I used to dance, mostly street dance, some hip hop, a little bit of breaking, but mostly all of the street stuff, and a little bit of contemporary. I loved my contemporary dance as well. Last year, summer, you know, I moved to a new area and I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm going to get back into this. I went to a dance class. When I tell you, I spent 4 days hobbling around with my unfit, chunky old self, going back into it. Like I thought I was just going to go back in and be like, oh yeah, look at me, like dancer extraordinaire. No. Capricorn, same kind of energy, okay? It might also be that you start talking more about how you can be more present for your children if you have them, especially around their education. All right. Now, you might also decide that you want or need more training for some kind of work goal that you desire or have. And I really love this for booking or at least finding a way to justify some kind of travel. Now, for you guys, I am advising that you do heart chakra work. Okay. Aquarius, my dear sun sign brothers and sisters, you guys know I love you to pieces. So now that Pluto is actually in the sign of Aquarius, everything that you do and everything about you has a little more intensity than it usually does, right? And for that reason, you're more focused, a little more pedantic or obsessive, as if we need any help, but you're definitely a lot more astute, a lot more acute, and a lot more aware, right? Pluto, I felt this transit coming for a while. And boy, now that it's here, I'm like, damn, we have not even scratched the surface yet, right? We're just getting that. It's not even really a starter. What we're getting is like, you know, like an amuse-bouche, just like a little mouthful to wet the palate. Now, this Mercury retrograde for you is happening in your 4th house. It's seeing you potentially reconnect with family members, maybe ones that you haven't seen in a while. Maybe for some of you, you're potentially mending relationships with siblings, especially because Mercury rules siblings, right? So if you've had challenges, troubles, or issues with a sibling, this Mercury retrograde could do it. You could realize through a conversation that you've had, or maybe you've approached something all wrong. Now, it is a Mercury retrograde in Taurus, so this is not going to be as simple as, you know, you pick up the phone and it's like, oh yeah, you know, everything's great now that we've talked it out. You might need to really talk it out. You might really need to go into some very deep conversations with your sibling in order to get that, you know, yeah, like in order to get that mend, like that true sort of fixing of a challenge, you're going to have to go deep. It could also be that you start pulling apart your familial history and then you start to get to work redefining it. And that could be really powerful, right? So yeah, great. As the ruler of your 5th house and your 8th houses, I wouldn't be surprised if an old intimate contact of sort gets in touch. If you are young, free, and single, those FWBs are about to get in touch, or maybe you're picking up the phone or sending the "Are you busy?" text. Sorry, I'm gonna have to contain myself. So this could be a lot of fun, short but sweet. All right, like in terms of that sort of thing, maybe it lasts for the retrograde, but not much more. It's not necessarily about sort of a reconnection for the long term, although maybe it could be because it is Taurus after all. Maybe it goes to another level. Very possible. If you're partnered, married, or in a long term commitment, this could be where you rethink how much the heavy has gotten in the way of the love life or the sex life. Do you know what I mean? Where you kind of just say, like, it's been enough. Let's just remember what it is to have fun and to be, you know, naughty together, and, you know, grab your partner and shove them down an alley and kiss the smooch off them. You know, just again, Siri, mind your business. Gosh. All right, so last but never least, my dear Pisces, this for you guys is happening in your 3rd house. Mercury has a very nice affinity to the 3rd house because Mercury rules the local neighborhood, shops, you know, commerce. It's like, you know, the here, come in here and go in, and all of that kind of hustle and bustle. That's Mercury stuff. So on a practical level, on a really practical level, for some of you, you might need to get your car looked at, or a mechanical, like maybe a phone, a TV. If you've had something that's needed to be repaired, I advise you to get it done in the retrograde, or maybe something resurfaces with a car, a vehicle, a phone, a television, whatever. You might need to get it looked at again, right? And this actually could happen. This could work out really well for you, and the reason being is because you're getting it done under the right energy, if that makes sense. I would also say that you could be rethinking the neighborhood, so not necessarily moving. It might be that, you know, something about the place that you live in is actually starting to change, and, you know, Taurus rules the environment, so there could be a change that happens literally in your local environment that actually, you know, hits in some regard, like not in a bad way, but, you know, maybe they start doing roadworks right outside your house. If you've been with me long enough, you know, basically everywhere I live, this happens to me. Like, I kid you not, it's ridiculous. I'm not a Pisces, but, you know, I feel you. Now, this could also be as simple as building works that begin, for sure, but it could be a miscommunication with a neighbor about something really trivial. So watch out for that. Moreover, for those of you, this could be getting redefined about how the area that you live in can actually go to work for you. Mercury rules your 7th house and your 4th house as well. So this could be a revision of a contract to do with your home. So if you're renting, this could be maybe time to renew the contract for the place that you're living in. It might be that some of the details change. You know, maybe they tried to put the rent up, all of that kind of stuff. I would say hold fast to your guns. If there's something that you do or don't want, it's a Mercury retrograde in Taurus. Dig your heels in, or do what I like to do and just charge through it like a bull. Finally, if you need a new car or any kind of a device, especially in a Mercury retrograde, right? Go secondhand. This is the time you can find bargains. If you need a new phone, get a refurb. If you need a new car, buy secondhand. If whatever you need, especially under the Mercury retrograde transit, buy it secondhand, because you usually get some really good bloody bargains underneath that energy. And then finally, and as well, because it's a Mercury retrograde, you might be able to haggle or negotiate the price. For you guys, I am advising, I'm not sure if I said it for Aquarius, but I'm going to tell you guys, for your chakra work, I'm advising that you do throat chakra work, because the 3rd house is communications, conversations. If you are still watching Aquarius, it is for your 4th house. All right. So if you're still watching Aquarius, your root chakra is where you should be working over the course of this transit. So to wrap it up, this was a lot of fun. I'm seeing all of your comments here, and just inside, I'm kind of giggling to myself. I'm glad that you have enjoyed the session. And I want to say, thank you so much for all of your support, as always. Like, it really does mean the world. So again, I'm going to give you those links. If you want to get my chakra meditations, they will help you do the chakra work around this Mercury retrograde. If you want to take it a little bit deeper and you want to get on the Mercury Retro-Grace energy work session, where we're going to get into how this will affect you, the link is also in the chat, and I'm going to put these in the description box. Now, the reason I'm suggesting that you do chakra work around this Mercury retrograde is because it's happening in the sign of Taurus. And the chakra for Pisces is going to be the throat chakra, Adam. Thank you for asking. The reason I'm advising people to do chakra work alongside this one in particular is because it's in Taurus, because we've got Uranus in Taurus, and because the Mercury retrograde starts like basically conjunct Uranus. So you want to be working on the mind, body, and spirit level. You want to be working in the energy system for sure, right? And something that's a little bit out there, a little bit novel, but also speaks to different aspects of self. So we're going to be feeling this one in the mind for sure, but it's also going to be hitting on some very practical levels as well. With that said, I wish you all an abundance of all of that good stuff. I also forgot to mention, on the 2nd of April, I will be having a very special guest. You know her. Denise Matthew will be joining me. We're going to be going live on the Mercury retrograde again about all of this. So I truly hope that you guys will be there, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun. All right. With that said, take care, and I'll see you soon.